Hello, beautiful baby mamas. I hope you are all well and looking after yourself. So we are in our second week of our Body Love to Birth month in July. And this month is all about sharing birth stories. As I said in our first Instagram, that I think there's so much power in sharing these birth stories, because just who knows what little nugget of information will resonate with you in that moment. And I just think it's a beautiful way to connect to the process of birth. And today we are speaking to a divine mama. She is a second-time mum, so we're going to be hearing about her second birth story, which I think is really powerful because it's so different to your first. So we're going to be talking to Deb Symond Oneil, and she is going to be telling us all about the birth of her second baby, Violet. And we get her on, we're going to be talking about the setup. So hello.
Hello.
How are you? Are you well?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for joining us, lovely.
Thank you for having me.
I missed you in Whippet today.
I know I'm at the office, but I loved it last week.
Oh, I loved having you there. It's like, I feel like coming back after you've had a baby, it's that class like you're scared to do and then you do it and you feel so empowered.
It was amazing. Like, talk about a sweat. I'll be back, Ali. Don't worry. Ali was like, "Are you going to come back?"
I'm always scared because I feel like it's quite, it's a class kind of have to build up to. But I actually went back and listened to our story about the birth of Bo, which you shared with us last year. And I think I'm so interested to hear about the preparation and the birth of your second, because would you agree that they're so different?
So different. Yes, definitely. And everyone kept reiterating that to me. So I definitely went in with that mindset, but they are all so different.
Yeah, so tell me about your physical and mental preparation going into the second birth. Did it look different? And if it looked different, how was it different? Or did you, I guess, understand your body a little bit better and what it needed to get through birth?
I think my second pregnancy was kind of tough, actually. I was like vomiting up until at least halfway or more.
Mm-hmm.
And I was breastfeeding when I fell pregnant. So I was still quite depleted. And I think I definitely wasn't in the same kind of physical place I was for my first pregnancy. So it was a little bit more tough second time round for me. But I really wanted to go into birth the same way that I did with Bo, and I had such a great experience with him. I wanted to do the prep in the same way that I had for my first birth. So I worked with Nadine from She Births, who I adore.
Yeah.
But it was lockdown, so Nadine was in Byron Bay and I was in Sydney, and we did prep on Zoom. So it was really different to being able to be together in person every week. So that's something that I definitely missed, but we were able to prepare just the same to get ready for everything for my birth with Violet.
And so you mentioned that you were sick, and breastfeeding. So obviously we think about how much our bodies are depleted over the course of our pregnancy. So your placenta is the priority, and it is prioritized over everything else in your body. So being sick and still breastfeeding, what did that look like in the second half of your pregnancy? Were you really mindful of that depletion? Did you feel like you had to reload and re-nourish? And what did that look like?
Definitely. I think I was just feeling really flat the whole pregnancy, and I was really trying to myself, but I had a toddler. Bo was 19 months when Violet was born, so he was really little throughout the pregnancy, and also trying to run a business during lockdown. So the rest and the amount of effort that I could put into my pregnancy was a bit different second time round, as it is, life gets in the way. So you can't spend as much time sort of looking after yourself in my situation as I did with my first pregnancy.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think that also your going into your second pregnancy, when you have a little one, the level of exhaustion and what you're used to, it's like I remember my first trimester with Lila, so my first baby, I was like, oh my God, I'm so tired. Like, I just couldn't believe it. And then your second pregnancy, like, oh, I'm always tired.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah, that's exactly it.
Not so shocking. You're just tired. And I don't know about you, but I found that I like because of that lack of ability to really indulge the pregnancy, you know, that like it almost makes the symptoms worse. Like I feel like I never had sort of as bad a morning sickness as you, but I remember at like 4 o'clock every afternoon, I'd be like, oh my God, I'm dead. You know, like come in waves. So with your, you know, you had a beautiful birth with a beautiful vaginal birth, natural childbirth with Beau. Did you, because you became pregnant quite quickly, did you feel that you'd recovered your pelvic floor strength and your deep core had recovered before you became pregnant again? Was that a priority?
Look, I mean, I did a lot of sessions with you, Ali. We did our privates, or I went to classes. So I definitely worked on it after giving birth to Beau. And so whilst I don't think I was at 100%, I was definitely felt in quite a good place when I fell pregnant. But I still wasn't like, my body wasn't back and, you know, all those.
Yeah. I mean, I always say, like, I just totally hate that phase of like, how quickly can you bounce back? Yeah. I feel like it's negative. It's like we bounce forward, but we bounce forward as these sort of different versions of ourselves, these higher versions of ourselves actually, but we're so hard on ourselves, right? It's like we feel like we should look like we did before we had a baby. Sometimes
it's just,
sometimes we feel better. Yeah, it's tough. Sometimes we look better, but there's also, you know, like it's a process, I think. And so birth is
a place to start off with.
Pardon?
I think strength-wise, I felt in a good place to start off with Violet.
Yeah, great. And that's important. And I also think your body knows what to do, right? You're sort of more, your body's more informed. There's that muscle memory. So let's talk about the lead up mentally. So you know, when you have a toddler, what are you thinking about? You know, I remember being like, okay, if I go into labor at night, who's going to look after Lila? Like, were you thinking about that sort of stuff and what's going to happen in that early postpartum period? Did that come into play in that lead up?
Well, something Nadine from She Births, who was my doula, really spoke to me a lot about was how when you've already got another baby, often the second labor can be a bit stop-start, or you can feel one foot, you know, moving towards the birth and one foot still there with your baby at home, and you feel quite 32 weeks I had, I'm trying to remember what it was called, something with my uterus, but I was having contractions. It was more than a Braxton, but not a contraction. Okay. Like every 5 minutes all throughout the day. And I was very concerned. You know, my doctor checked, everything was fine, but he said you need to rest a bit more, focus a bit more on yourself. I think at the time I'd been very, very busy, and I was thinking, oh gosh, you know, I'm 32 weeks and I was hoping to get to term with Violet. So I sort of made a bit of an adjustment there.
Yeah.
Really focused a bit more on me and just resting and looking after myself a bit more. But it was definitely that thing of prepping for birth and thinking, you know, is Beau going to be okay at home, and is everything sorted? And it was lockdown, you know, how does it work getting someone here, and is that out? And all of those things kind of went into play. But then at the same time, I was just so excited to meet Violet, and just for that moment, I was like, oh my God, I just want this to happen.
Yeah. So I think that definitely that, like, I remember having similar contractions, or that Braxton Hicks, it's that tightening, and often we're dehydrated when we're having a second pregnancy, and we're so far down that priority list, we forget to drink water. I remember we were having that conversation, and like put the salt in your water, have hydrolyte. Whereas, like, you can put that hydrolyte, those tablets in your morning, have a drink, have coconut water, because often, you know, the uterus is a a muscular organ, and so it's obviously going to have, it can be constricted if it's not hydrated well. So you talk about lockdown birth. I would really love to hear your story, because I think that it was really challenging for mums. I think that, you know, the fear of not being able to birth with your partner, if they got COVID, like what would it look like in the hospital? Can you talk us through sort of what that looked like for you?
I was really, really scared. I think for me, I found it really hard. I was terrified of COVID. I was terrified of having to give birth alone.
Yes.
Nadine, as my doula, wasn't allowed to come to the hospital anyway. And then, you know, I was already feeling disappointed that she wasn't going to be able to be there to support me as she was with Bo.
Yeah.
Ed, who was my absolute rock in both of my births, and he made it to Violet's birth. So that was a major concern. So he was there, and I was really lucky to be able to experience that. And I know some people who weren't. So I feel really grateful that he was able to be there with me. But it was just different. It was such a different, you know, the fears around birth were different for me than my fears the first time with Bo.
Yes.
Having a doula to work with was definitely brilliant for me mentally, to prepare and just focus on the baby, and focus on my family, and not try and get too scared by all of those what if situations, and just to try and lean into whatever was going to be.
Yeah, I think that that's the thing, right? In birth, there is so much out of your control that you do have to lean into that, what you can lean into, and try to quieten that voice of all the, you know, what if this and what if that. And did you feel, I guess, in the experience, did the medicalization, I guess, I imagine, so it was less people in the room, more medical people, were people in, what's it called?
Oh, masks. Yes.
Yeah, masks and screens and everything.
But you know what? In the hospital, I actually, like, obviously I worked with Dr. Morris, who I also had as my obstetrician with Bo, who was amazing and very supportive during that time. But in the hospital, to be honest, apart from not having people more people allowed in the room, I had my mum and my husband and my doula at my first birth.
Yes.
Apart from that, people were wearing masks, but it wasn't something that sort of changed the experience for me once I was in the room.
Great. And so I remember talking about your labouring at home. Can you talk us through it? So how did it begin? I'd love to hear. I remember we touched on that car journey. I'd love to hear about your second car journey. Can we talk about the beginning and then talk us through it?
Yeah, so I was 40 plus 2, and considering my first Bo was 2 weeks early, we kind of all thought that Violet was going to be much earlier than she decided to come. So it was definitely the waiting game toward the end. Initially, I was just so expecting her to have been there 3 weeks ago. It was just every day I was surprised that she hadn't joined us yet, but I was really happy for her to come on her own timeline. So I actually made, Nadine gave me this amazing recipe for a smoothie, and it had all of these, you know, bringing on birth miracle things, lots of pineapple and dates. I'd have to look up the recipe again. We put some castor oil in there. We were really just going for it. I was like, I really want to have this baby today.
Yeah.
And Nadine's like, can you see me?
Yes. Yeah.
She was like, just give this smoothie a try and we'll see how you go. So I had that at lunchtime. Ned tasted it. He's like, this is amazing. It was delicious. It was like all these fruits and it was great. Yeah. And then I think I had to go get COVID tests for the hospital. So we were going every few days anyway. So Ned and I went to go get a COVID test, and we were in the car, and I felt the contractions coming on, but it was very mild. And I was in that mindset of, I don't want to think that I'm in labor because I don't want it to stop. I want it to keep progressing. Yeah. I don't want to psych myself up. So Ned and I got the COVID test, and we get home, and I said to him, I think I'm in labor. And he was like, oh my God, do you need me to do anything, or where are you at? And I was like, no, I just want to be by myself, which was completely different to my experience with Bo, where I just needed support every inch of my being. I just needed super close at that stage. So I put in my AirPods and I played the I think it's like Have Fun Friday or something upbeat and old school playlist, and I was just sort of like dancing in my room to this music, and the labor just started to progress, and I could feel it getting, like, the contractions getting bigger, and I was like, oh my God, this is happening. I can't believe this moment is finally here. I was so excited. I was like texting my sisters and my girlfriends. I was like, I'm in labor, like, so excited.
Yes,
Yeah, I was, and I just wanted to be by myself because I was sort of scared that the labor was going to stop, and I didn't want to start. So I was very much in my own head, trying to like feel all the feels and just get everything happening. That's how it started. So
and
I was
just had that confidence to go inward because of the second time around, that you knew that it was, you know, the support is wonderful, but actually it's you who's going to bring Violet into this world. And do you feel that this first birth gave you that confidence to go into, like, inside?
definitely, and I think because you felt these sensations before, it's not as overwhelming, and you're not as, I was way more confident because time knowing that that was okay, and knowing that it was the beginning, and knowing, you know, things are just going to progress from here, and I want them to progress, and I just want
to progress. Yeah, I think there's a lot of holding back in your first labor, right? It's like, oh my God, what is that? Whereas your second one, you can lean into that, you know, knowing that it's, I always like to say, pain with purpose. It's pain with purpose, and you just like want that pain to keep going because it gets you closer to your baby. So you're dancing around your room and you're texting your girlfriends, and your contractions are coming on a little stronger. So when is that time when you're like, okay, so you have that instinct, like where how far apart did your doctor like you to be? What time of day? Afternoon now.
2:30, I was like going to get the COVID test. I think I'm going into labor. By 5 o'clock, I was in labor, like early home, and it was happening. But Violet's room, just in her like space to be, and like really in my head, and it was, they were big, kind of getting bigger, but it wasn't the point where I felt I needed to go to the hospital yet. Then sort of I needed more support, and Ned was there, and we were going through the motions with each contraction, and I needed pressure. And completely different. With Bo, I needed to be in the fetal position through contractions. With Violet, I needed to move. I needed pressure. It was just completely different in terms of what made me feel better in the contractions. We weren't really timing them, I don't think. I think we started to time them. But basically, I sort of know with Bo, I had this instinct of I must go to the hospital now. And the same thing happened with Violet. It's more when I feel too nervous about being able to handle the contractions in the car that I know that it's time to go.
Yep.
So I think it was about 8:30 or 8 o'clock. So I'd labored at home for a good 4 or 5 hours. Yep. Only, you know, it was all dim and like soft lighting and nice music, and it had definitely moved on to a different place than dancing with the headphones. It was really happening and quite strong.
Yeah.
And so I said I've got to go.
Yeah.
I was nervous about going to the hospital. I think because of all the COVID stuff, I was sort of putting it off, and I think I probably should have gone there a little bit earlier.
Okay.
But I was nervous about being in the car and nervous about getting there and the whole environment. So I think I put it off.
Yeah.
But we had a really quick journey in the car. It took me 8 to get into the car. You know, I was sort of contracting it felt to me like they were back to back, but they wouldn't. Probably, you know, less than a minute though in between, I'd say.
Yeah. Yeah. And I like people to understand that sometimes some labours go where you're having these really consistent gaps in your contractions. But like you say, even if you're not transitioning, sometimes they are 1 minute on, 1 minute off, 1 minute on, 1 minute off. It can be like that. Yeah.
It was definitely close. And so, we, you know, there was many contractions. We've got a lift in our building, getting down. Ned's sort of holding my hand. We've got some funny photos.
And
I'm sort of leaning over the railings and sort of struggling to get down there, like clutching my maternity pillow and sort of waddling to the car. And I think I only had a 4 contractions in the car, which was amazing.
Yeah.
And we got to the hospital and I was in serious labor at this point.
Yeah.
I thought I was going to have the baby at the entrance, and I think everyone around me thought that I was going to have the baby at the entrance. They were like racing with the wheelchairs and everything, and I was like, I can't sit in a wheelchair.
Yeah. No way.
But amazingly, Lucy, who was our midwife at the Mater with Bo, was working that night, and Ned had messaged her and said, Lucy, are you there? And we'd called the hospital and the stars aligned. So Lucy knew we were on our way. Yeah. She sort of knew everything that I wanted for my birth, and I was really hoping to have as much of a natural experience as I could. So we got to the birthing suite. It took me a long time to get up there. I was really, really struggling. The contractions literally felt like they were nonstop. I'm sure that they were gaps, but it didn't feel like that to me.
Yeah.
By the time we got up there, I was like, oh my gosh, this feels full on. And then Lucy was amazing because she knew the kind of environment that I wanted, you know, soft music, dim lighting. I wanted to get a bath, all of those things. So it was actually prepped for us when we walked in, and like the birth team was back. Just we didn't have Nadine or Mum there. Yep. That was really made me feel super safe, which I think is something with birth a lot for me anyway.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. Your room, and then so did they check your dilation, or they let you go straight into the bath?
Yeah, Lucy checked me, and I think it was only 3 centimeters. It was grim. And this is about 9 o'clock. So it's 9 p.m. I think I was 3 centimeters. And Nadine was on FaceTime. And we knew with my birth with Bo that I went very quickly from 3 to transition or 5 to transition. Yeah. Nadine was, you know, reminding me, she's like, this doesn't necessarily mean anything. And in my head, I was like, oh my goodness, I'm not even there yet. I'm not even, you know, I think 3 centimeters is established labor. So technically I wasn't even in established labor, but I knew the feeling, and I was like, I am in labor. I know this. I've did before. So I was like, okay. And Lucy was amazing. She spoke to Dr. Morris, and he's like, look, just, you know, do your thing, like get comfortable, see how you go. So I think I hopped in the bath at about 9:15, and the bath is where I did my best laboring with Bo. And certainly worked very well with Violet. So I hopped in the bath at 3 centimeters, and it just, like, the birth just went full on extremely quickly.
And what is it when you're in the bath? So can you, because I feel like that's like where you get into is going to help you. So I'm always like, is it a big bath, or are you in like?
So it's a big bath, like a kind of spa round bath, and my super husband Ned puts his boardies on and actually hops in the base of the bath, and then I lie on him because the bath is actually extremely uncomfortable. Like, you know, you've got the hard bath and you're trying to float. So Ned kind of was like lying down, and then I would sort of lean on him. Yeah. That way I sort of had support underneath me, so I didn't feel I was falling under the water. Yeah. It wasn't uncomfortable during the contractions to have like a hard base underneath you.
Yes.
So yeah, Ned is amazing as a birth ever.
Yeah, so good.
And all the work we did with Nadine, like Ned was really involved with that, with both births, and I think that really helped him to know kind of what to do. Yeah. I used the gas in the bath in my contraction, and I think it was pretty full on for me at that point. And if I can just breathe, which the gas helped me to do, I can just relax. I don't know what it is, but it puts me into a place of just being able to relax enough to let it happen.
Yeah, so you're going to help your nervous system. When we breathe shallow, that's that fight or flight, that cortisol spike, and you lose control. And I've actually, other people have had gas, that it's that slow breath work that you have to do, that helps your nervous system transition. And even though you're going with the pain, it's like your breath is matching your effort.
Yeah, that's it. And because you have to breathe in very deeply to even make the gas work. It just like something that is able to help you regulate the breathing. I think instead of that, you know, when you're
like fight or
avoid.
flight. Yeah, that hyperventilation.
Yeah. And we had like, yeah, that's it. And it was, Nadine was on FaceTime, Ned was there, Lucy was there, Dr. Morris was, on the phone and knowing the situation. So I sort of felt quite safe at this point, and the birth progressed incredibly fast.
3 to what?
I went from 3 to 10 in half an hour, I think.
So what is the answer for you, which I think is so cool? Like, it gives you that buoyancy maybe, and that feeling of support and familiarity, I guess. Again, a confidence thing. When you get in there, you know you can do it. That's cool. So did you transition in the bath?
Yes, transitioned in the bath, and actually I was like, I need to push. And I had been checked earlier, and I think it was maybe 5. I can't actually remember, funnily enough, because, but I think I was maybe 5, like 20 minutes into the bath or something. And then all of a sudden I was like, Lucy, I need to push. And it was like very, it was full on. Like, it was more intense than my first birth, I think, that phase of the hospital. And I was like, I need to push. And I recognized that feeling. And it had, are you there, Alex?
Can you talk to us about that feeling, that instinct? Because I think that, like I said at the top of that, I think it's so nice to hear it in your words. So like women who haven't done it, when they're going into it, they're like, oh, I remember Deb. So tell me about that instinct.
It's just, I don't know what it is, but like your body literally pushes the baby out. Like, you're not, I need to push, but I felt like all the pressure in the world pushing, like my body was pushing Violet out. That's kind of the feeling of it. I need to push. It wasn't me needing to push. It was like my body was already doing it, and I had to allow it to do it. That's kind of how it felt to me.
Yep. And so when you have that instinct, I kind of describe it as you're no longer, you can actually, it's like you use your body, because I think contractions is about sort of going with the pain, whereas there's this need to push is like you're like going with your body.
Yes.
If that makes like it's, like it's like an instinct of like, and actually the pushing sort of doesn't hurt, right? It's like, it's quite a power move, I feel like, like the contractions, you kind of with it.
Weirdly with Bo, no, the pushing didn't hurt me with Bo, but it actually, I think I was so tired after this part of the labor. I found it harder this time. I don't know why. I found it harder with it.
Well, maybe more. So you're the pushing you found harder this time?
Because I was in the bath still, and you're not allowed to give, well, I don't know about all the hospitals, but at the Mater, you can't have a water birth. It's not it's a procedure. So it was a surprise to all of us. Lucy checked me, and I think the baby's head was right there. So like it was happening. Like we were like, oh, like no one was expecting it to be that far.
Yep.
So I had to get out of the bath. So we were like draining the water. But because I was in that stage of labor, I found it extremely uncomfortable to move.
Yes. So down.
Whereas Dr. Morris, like I really needed him to be there, and it happened so quickly. I was like, have you been able to call him? I was sort of like quite panicky, because I think we went from being like, oh, yeah, I've got this, everything's happening, to like the baby is coming this second. Yeah. So Dr. Morris arrived, and he's like, get out of the bath. So he and Ned helped me to get to the bed. I'm just going to plug my phone in, sorry. He and Ned helped me to get to the bed.
Yep.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah. And then I tried a number of positions, and I was extremely tired and shaky, which happened to me with my birth with Bo as well. And I ended up needing to sort of prop the bed up and sort of sit up and lie on my back for the pushing stage. And I think it took maybe 45 minutes. I'm not quite sure. But I was struggling. I was like really struggling with the pushing. I was working really hard. It's more just the force. It's not the pain necessarily. It's just a different level of work.
Baby out. Definitely. I feel like there's the pushing phase can be quite exhausting, but it's because the baby's pushing on the nerves. Often there's no pain, but it's the power that you need to bring a life into this world is kind of wild.
It's amazing.
Yeah. The beds are so incredible, right? So when you are tired, they are able to, you know, sit you up so you knees nice and close and get that sort of position that's optimal if you are exhausted. Tell me, final push.
Ali, I've just lost you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah, I was just saying that 45 minutes
Oh.
later, you're there, that final push, and then.
Yes, and then Violet was with us. So Dr. Morris had said to me, I think maybe her oxygen had gone down a bit, and he's like, you've got to give this one a really, really good go. And I was like, okay, I can do this. And then she was born, and she was there. She was born within an hour and 10 minutes of me getting to the hospital, I think. So it was really quick.
So
From
to
10:30 she was born. But I think I got to the hospital at about 9, and by the time I got upstairs, it was maybe like 20 past 9.
Wow, amazing!
So it was amazing.
Intense, I think that kind of like I think I got with Teddy for 7 minutes, like from transition to birth. So like I feel like there is that sort of element of the more births you have, often they get more intense but quicker.
Yes. Yeah.
That sweet birth where Henry, my second, was in the middle, not the long, slow, contracted one, but not the super fast one.
Yeah.
So, that beautiful girl's on your chest. Tell me,
best feeling in the world.
Is it? I know.
Oh,
yeah.
It's just the best feeling in the world. Like I was just so excited to meet her. She was just on me. She was actually crying a lot. And I remember being like, is she okay? Like she was really, I think it was very quick for her.
Yes.
So she was sort of a bit overwhelmed at first, but we had like 2 hours of feeding and cuddles and just completely rested, and it was just amazing.
And so tell me about then the experience of, because I think it's interesting, like that post-birth COVID experience. So got your beautiful baby, you have that skin to skin time, and I know you're always wonderful at also sharing that with Ned. So Ned gets his top off and puts his baby on as well.
He was like fully cuddling Violet, and I think it was really special. Like it was just the two of us. It's kind of that, it's the most amazing feeling, and you feel so, I was so happy that all the work we had put in, that the outcome was brilliant, and she was here safely, and God, we were just so excited to meet her, and it was really so special.
Yeah. And so how long did you stay in hospital that time? Was it shorter, longer?
It was shorter, so no visitors were allowed, which was actually really nice because we could really just bond with Violet, the three of us, and have that really special moment before we went home and introduced her to Bo and our families. A couple of days after we had Violet locked down, the rules were lifted. So it was really nice that once we got home from hospital, we could have family come the next week to actually meet her. So that was really amazing timing. But it was really nice just having that time together. But I wanted to get out of hospital. I wanted to be at home. I wanted to be with Bo. I think I stayed 2 days and then went home, and I was really lucky. I didn't need any kind of recovery time apart from the normal. So I was able to leave pretty quickly.
And so just as a final, tell us about the moment, what was the setup, and in words, what did it look like? I think it's the most me.
Oh, it was just so amazing. He was a little bit stunned. He was sort of like, oh my gosh, what is this? Who are you? And I think, at that young age too, they don't really grasp the concept that the baby's going from your belly to the world. Yeah. It's so cool. But Ned was, I think I was holding Violet and Ned was with Bo, and he came and gave her a little kiss, and Bo gave him a little bunny. And he was sort of cuddling the bunny and stroking her head, and it was so amazing and special. It was just, such an incredible moment.
Yeah, we actually like like we thank God for like iPhones now with moments like that. We have the moment that we put Henry in his basset, his sort of cartoon character, brought Lila out, and she found him, and we still every now and then we go back and look at like just get those goosebumps, like, just that moment of how much she loved him already.
Oh,
And
amazing.
so glad we have iPhones for moments like that, like how
So amazing. And, watching the two together, there's just nothing better.
I know, totally. Oh, Deb, what a story. I love that. Like so much great information I think resonate with women, because I think the one thing that I love about your story is it can be really disheartening when you get to hospital, you're working hard, they check your dilation and it's as if you haven't done anything. It can be really disheartening. But that you're proof that get in the right position, get in the bath, that you can move that needle.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it doesn't, it's meant to be linear, but it certainly wasn't for me on either of my births, actually. So
I never think it's linear. I always
yeah.
That's why birth plans, like, throw them away. Like, be informed with the choices that you want, but just like go with it.
Yeah, exactly.
Deb, I know you're so busy, so I appreciate you sharing that beautiful
It was
story.
so nice to think back. Actually, I haven't thought about the birth. She's 9 months old now, and it was really nice to think, hang on, let's just go back. Like, what happened?
Yeah.
So it was really nice to reflect. So thank you for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. And I'll see you soon. Thank
See
you.
you soon, Ali. Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.